one more thing I wanted to mention about Mulan, about that specific phrase that the emperor said at the end. The flower that blooms in adversity is the most rare and beautiful of all. Keep in mind that your daughters and we ourselves, because again, when this came out in my generation, I'm 39 now. My generation, we were girls then. We were barely into our teens. Keep in mind that the way that a lot of girls are interpreting this and what they are absorbing, what your daughters are absorbing and how they're interpreting this on one level is that in order to be rare and beautiful, they must bloom in adversity. So, it's, first of all, that's a lot to put on a girl's shoulders. Disney's really fucking with little girls. And let's also, again, call a spade and be real when I say that Disney is primarily focused on their target audience is little girls. Who doesn't know that? Okay, I mean, sure, the little boys, their brothers, and the parents come along for the ride, but the target audience is little girls. Most of these movies feature a young girl of some sort, maybe in her teens, whatever, but a girl. That she's the heroine, she's the main star of the show. Prince Charming, what have you, tends to be sort of a side character, and honestly, quite often, typically quite useless. If you really break down what these dudes do, what like the love interest of the girl is, what he does in the movie, it's either he's outright an asshole sometimes, like he just gets in the way, or he's just kind of useless. He needs saving, you know? He does next to nothing. Anyway, so primarily these movies, most of Disney media content that they produce is targeting little girls, young girls. And it's a lot to put on the shoulders of a girl, first of all. Second of all, now we're telling young girls with that phrase, the flower that blooms in adversity is the most rare and beautiful of all. For every kid wants to be rare and beautiful. You could say every person wants to be rare and beautiful, but actually I would say that if you've had any little bit of experience as a beautiful person or somewhat beautiful person, or even a rare or kind of unique person. I know personally, feeling like a weirdo half of my life, I have wished to be normal, to be more normal. But everybody, I think, some part of us, at least when we're kids, definitely wants to be rare and beautiful, or seen as being rare and beautiful. Certainly little girls do. So now we're telling them, we're downloading into our daughters' minds, or allowing Disney to download into our daughters' minds, and our parents allow Disney to download into our minds, that in order to be rare and beautiful, we must bloom in adversity. So we have to throw ourselves into adversity, and not only is that enough, but you have to bloom in it as well. Wow. So, otherwise, you're not the most rare or beautiful. Yeah. That's really what that implies. Again, this is, little 6-year-old girls, 8-year-old girls, 12-year-old girls are watching this, and to some extent, on some level, that's what they're absorbing. That's what their mind is downloading. and walking away with when they are watching this. And remember that, and the Emperor of China is made to look so cool and calm and wise and bigger than everything. You know, so if he says something, it's like, oh, so profound. It must be full of wisdom. Well, I already pointed out in the previous video how it was bullshit. It's bullshit. It's totally inaccurate and unrealistic. It doesn't make any sense. His little metaphor was just stupid. And so the whole thing is really, it's doing a number on the psyche of your children, particularly your daughters. The more and more I break down the content of not just Disney videos, but a lot of, I mean, most media out there, music, a lot of music out there, a lot of it is sending really backwards, unhealthy messages to girls. I never thought I'd be this person. Going like, the music is destroying the children. I just never thought I'd be this person. Never in a million years. But here I am going, it's not the music, it's the people producing the music. And I think that there's a good amount of them that are just like, of course there's a good amount of them that are just, I know what it is to be an artist and to be in the creative process and to kind of be in the zone. I've been an athlete as well, so it's very much the same thing. Athletes out there know what I'm talking about when I say getting in the zone. It's like, every move you make is just right. You know exactly where that ball's going to go when you throw it, so on and so forth. You know what it is to be in the zone. Well, artists experience the same thing. So I've experienced it across the board in different activities and endeavors. So I know that some artists out there just got into the zone and came up with some turn of phrase and such that sounded really good, and they maybe didn't think about it too much, and it came out of their subconscious minds, and is in a lot of ways the result of their own minds adding up a lot of stuff around us, going on around us, life around us. So I know that plenty of these artists, plenty of these content creators are just kind of getting into a zone and just producing this stuff, and there's no pre-planning. Let's put it that way. No pre-planning involved too much. But at the same time, so again, I'm trying to pinpoint who would be behind something like this. I'm really trying to observe this media and this content and analyze it, but also think about the people behind it and what it would take to have these kinds of mess ups in such a major production and have it go overlooked. And something tells me that that's not always the case with all of the media out there. It's not just something that was just whipped up by an artist in ecstasy who's experiencing a creative brainstorm. Some of it feels like it's being tweaked to or cherry picked. Maybe that's a better expression to use. Like some media or some versions of media are being cherry picked for the toxic messages that they send out to girls. I'm sorry, that was a really long meandering way to get to a point. But yes, so right there, it feels like a lot of media out there, music, movies, TV shows are aimed at sending toxic messages to girls, whilst I think that some of it is probably just thrown together quite cleverly by an artist who is in the zone and is not, there's no really nefarious planning, maybe even most of it. I do think that some of it is also, I don't think, I know, because plenty of us have heard certain things, like, for example, any Game of Thrones fans out there, you know that the last season, the way that whole thing ended, is different from the way the writer wrote it. Didn't the directors didn't they kind of changed the ending? So some of it is being altered from what the artist originally wrote, so on and so forth. Some of it is being cherry picked, and by cherry picked I mean, for example, let's say you have two songs and they're both equally popular. They're not, on the radio yet, but like in the music scene, because artists, up and coming musicians, they will, do the circuit. They'll go around to different venues and play their music until hoping to get spotted and seen and signed to a record label. So, let's say you are part of some nefarious, I don't know, cult group who's trying to belittle young girls and young women and target them and send toxic messages to them. Well, it could be just as easy then as opening and or owning one of the biggest or all of the biggest record labels out there. And then you are the one who picks and chooses the music that gets mass produced, put out on the radio, has millions of copies of CDs or whatever produced and put on the shelves and sold in all the stores. You're the one who, so as I said, some content, I believe, gets cherry picked for its toxic messages towards girls. And then, there's plenty of music out there that I've heard that is not so toxic towards girls. It's just as good as the mainstream music I hear on the radio that gets promoted all over the place. And it's like, why are these bands going overlooked? They're really good. What's going on here? It's like, well, their message is not toxic enough towards girls. So that's a lot of it. Yeah. So I feel like this is becoming a meandering video, and I want it to be just a quick little follow-up. Is think about the psychology behind not just the phrase that I pointed out to you that was said in this movie, but go ahead and, again, like, think back on a lot of the Disney movies you've watched. Did none of it really jump out at you as being a little bit off? And again, I'm not talking about, like, yeah, okay, weird half woman, half human, half fish person talking animals. Yeah, okay, that's weird enough, but we are meant to divorce ourselves from reality slightly for these stories to enjoy them, but there's a difference here. I think whilst I'm struggling to find the words to articulate exactly what the difference is, I think you all can kind of gut feel it. You feel it too. Like, there's a difference between a story about a talking crab and a fish girl. There's a difference between that kind of detachment from reality and saying things that are just absolutely unrealistic and inaccurate, and cleverly misleading. That's a whole other different kind of detachment from reality. So, all right, it's getting late too, so my brain's probably starting to shut down anyway. It's going like bedtime. Wow, it's 11 already. Last time I looked, it was like 9:30, and here I was sitting, going like, "Why am I so tired?" Well, duh, cats, past your bedtime. Okay, good night.